God, we are indeed here, thankfully welcoming all who are here and blessing another birth, another baptism here, bringing them into your fold. And God, we know that you are the one who helps us to hear your message. So we ask that you open our hearts, our minds, and help us to listen through your humble servant. We pray. Amen. So, I entitled this sermon to Boldly Go. How many Star Trek fans or Star Trek Next Generation or whichever version of Star Trek? Yes. To seek out new life and new civilizations, right? To boldly go where no one has gone before. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise, right? It's ongoing mission, right? All that. I used to love the idea, the concept that was behind all of that, because it was a way of going outside their doors, meeting new people, new cultures, and building relationships with them. Now, yes, there were some battles and everything else like that, but ultimately, it was trying to make connections and build relationships with those that were new to meet for them. Also, I was kind of like a sci-fi person, so I love space and all that too. But today, we're talking in this worship series about those that travel. The traveler was the idea of this particular week in the Outsider series, because when you travel to another country, especially if it's a culture different than our own, where they don't speak the same language, where maybe they have different traditions, you kind of feel a little bit like an outsider at first, right? Especially if you can't speak the same language. But one of the blessings is that if you take that step and do travel, you find that can be an amazing adventure. And you will find things that are in common with all people. I shared with you once when I went to the Holy Land, my very first time. I never thought I'd go there, but my very first time, there was a woman from South Carolina, and she just had so much personality, and she had one of those special canes that also turned into a seat. So whenever she got tired, she could just sit down, because we do a lot of walking. But she met this whole group of people from India that were also making a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. And they were just so enamored with her. She was talking to them in Shepherd's Field, which is where the angel would have appeared to the shepherds to announce the birth of Jesus. And they were so enamored with her, and she just built this wonderful rapport with them that every picture they took, group shot, she was in every single picture. And it's because she was willing to step outside her normal comfort zone and really just go and meet and build a relationship with these people, even though it's a different culture. Now, not always do we travel that far. Some of us just travel someplace else in our state, or maybe we go across the country. I know a few people that are planning to do that soon. How would you feel about not even bringing a toothbrush on any trip that you went? What about your wallet or passport, or even a bottle of water? How would that feel to you? Would you be willing to go ahead and do that? Don't we make a list of all the things that we need to make sure we bring with us? I mean, when you get ready to travel, especially if you're going to fly, they give you a list, especially if you're going overseas. These are the things you need. Also, if you have a passport, it's got to be good for more than 6 months before it expires, because now they won't even let you get on the plane. If you want to fly someplace, your passport has to be good for more than 6 months before it expires. I wonder how many things we could think of to put on our list for traveling. What else could we think of? Besides the wallet, water, money, credit cards, a phone, cell phone. Yeah, how could we do without that, right? What else? Washcloth? Charger for the phone, and maybe a few chargers for the phone, depending upon where you are. What else? Medicine, especially if you're taking it. Glasses, okay. Maybe some kind of protection, like a coat or some kind of shelter thing, little pop-up tent or something if it gets stranded. What happens if you're in an area where your cell phone and the GPS in your car doesn't work? Say you're going for a car ride someplace. How do you find where you're going? Maps. Paper maps, right? There's also a map app, say that 5 times fast, a map app that you could download on your phone that will work even without cell connection, without Wi-Fi. There's a few things like that. First aid kit. If you're driving, you may want to make sure you have a spare tire, all sorts of things, AAA, you name it. But Jesus told his disciples and those 70 people, first of all, he sent them out 2 by 2, right? So he never sent anybody alone. He always sent people out 2 by 2. So that means you have a person to go with you. But he told them not to take anything. Nothing. And so then he also told them that when you get to a village, to share the good news, if they welcome you, then that's great. And then he said, just stay at one house, help them out, eat what they provide for you, and just be grateful for that. But if a town doesn't welcome you and they reject you, then he said, not to worry about it too much. It's just, but he said, if they reject you, then they're also rejecting me. They're also rejecting God. So how do we make people feel welcome today, especially in light of what's just happened in the last 2 days, or last 36 hours, between El Paso, Texas, and now Dayton, Ohio? How can we safely make people feel welcome when we know there's so much tragedy that's going on in this world? Something to think about. Sorry, I didn't hear that. A hug. Okay, a hug. I think today, now more than ever, is when people need to know about Jesus. When people need to know that God loves them, because there's so much hurt and pain in this world. And there's so many people that maybe don't feel welcome. Have you ever been someplace where you felt unwelcome? It doesn't feel very good, does it? You definitely feel like you're more of an outsider, and then you start thinking about it. It's like, well, is there something wrong with me because they didn't welcome me? It's so different than when somebody does welcome you, because now you feel like you belong, you feel like you're part of something, and it's a very different feeling. So I want you to think about how we can welcome people, how we can be grateful and thankful for not only what we've been given here, but how can we welcome others? How can we share the love of Christ with others? There's a story I want to share with you, and it's about two different things. One was there was a TV series, I have no idea when it was. It was called Promised Land. And I think it was a spin-off from Touched by an Angel. Some of you may have remembered that. But it was about a family who were asked by these angels to go out and live a life outside the house. The father apparently lost his job. And so the family, the mother is going to homeschool them. They're in a beat-up RV. Okay, it's not a nice super deluxe one. It's a beat-up RV. And the family and the grandmother, they get in this RV. It's not huge. And they start driving all across country. And what they are asked to do is learn what it means to be a good neighbor. As they go across, how can they be a good neighbor to all these different people that they meet? And so they go from town to town all across the country. And some places they feel welcome, and other places not. But they stay just as long as they feel the need to stay, and then they sense a time that it's time for them to move on. But what they're trying to do is show the love of Christ to all that they meet throughout. So they didn't take nothing for their journey. They did take the RV, they took their family, but they really didn't have a lot of money or anything else. And they just worked with other people, building relationships, and hoped that people would welcome them and help them on their way and they would do the same, reciprocate. The other thing that I want to share with you was, I remember I told you about Brother Andrew. He's since written 10 books, but he wrote this one book called God's Smuggler. And he was from the Netherlands, and he fought in a war, I guess, the Netherlands when Indonesia was first being formed, so this was a long time ago. But he didn't become a Christian till he was in the war, and he got injured. And then when he was recuperating that he became a Christian. And it was after that he got married, and he and his wife, he went to a missionary school in Scotland, but he and his wife, to this day, just depend upon God for providing anything that they need. For providing the house, they have a simple house, any clothes, any food. But the big thing is he was trying to bring the Word of God to all the communist countries, which is not easy to do. And so he was able to get publishing companies to start publishing Bibles in different languages. And he would smuggle them across the border. He would smuggle Bibles across the border, meet all these secret Christian believers, whatever country they were in. And he did this throughout his life. He's still alive today, but he's in his late 90s right now. But then after 9/11, he started going to the Middle East countries, to all the countries where Islam and Muslims were the primary religion. But there were Christian believers, and they were known as secret believers because they could be tortured for living out their faith. And so he would go across those borders, and he would try and bring the love of God to those that he met. He also created a ministry called Open Doors, and it was a non-denominational mission that helped support persecuted Christians in over 70 countries. And this is, to this day, they have 25 offices around the world. They have also brought Bibles to over 70 different countries, over 500,000 people that they brought the Word of God to. And this man, all he did was say, okay, God, I'm yours. And he's been living his life ever since that way. So he was trying to extend that welcome to others. Now, I'm not saying we have to do that. I'm not saying that we have to not take anything for our journey, because it is tough in this day and age. But can we live a simpler life? Can we welcome others, find ways to welcome people in ways that show the love of God without having to bribe them, to just be authentic and sincere about our faith and share that with others. Traveling is an amazing adventure. It can be a wonderful thing, and even just going outside our doors can be an adventure. And I used to always love traveling. Some of you have heard some of my travel stories, because to me it is an adventure. And this is an exciting time, even though it's a difficult time when our world seems so broken. But what a time for us to share the love of God with others. So if Jesus says, please take a buddy and go out and share the good news, are you willing to take those steps out? Because Christ needs us to be those shepherds and be the helpers out in this world today. Amen.